Hey everybody, it's the Crypto-Anarchist here, and I'm bringing you guys another video on cryptocurrencies. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can use cryptocurrencies to actually create businesses and to help kind of the video game industry. We're going to be specifically talking about Halo Online, also known as El Dorito, and how El Dorito could still be saved by blockchain technologies. Now, when I do my explanation of how you save El Dorito with blockchain technologies, it's going to be as simple as possible. Again, if you guys are, if you're new to this channel, um, most people when they talk about blockchain technologies, they they use really stupid explanations, and they use just a lot of catchphrases and marketing terms. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to try and sorry about that. I'm going to try and explain this so that the average person can understand what blockchain technologies can do for something like El Dorito. So now, if you don't know what El Dorito was, it was also known as Halo Online. It was a computer version of, it was basically a remake of Halo 3, but instead of it just being Halo 3, they also had like DMRs and a bunch of different weapons. There's a couple new maps in it, and it was this online experience of a game that was initially developed by Microsoft, Innova, and Sabre. I don't know specifically, the details of each of these three companies' exact involvements with this project, but this will be important later on to remember these three companies, because the big issue that happened with Halo Online was these three companies created it, and then obviously the project was completed by mods and then just released to the community for free. So then these companies were like, hey, that's our product, you can't just give it away for free. And they actually have some legitimacy to their claim, because they did actually create this, okay? And as much as people like to complain that intellectual property doesn't exist, that might be true, but you can't commit fraud. So Halo Online, by not giving any sort of credit to Microsoft, Innova, and Sabre, and I know that they're not saying that they created the game Halo Online. The mods did do a lot, I would assume, but I mean, these other companies did the majority of it, and they do have a claim to that to their work. There's only one version of code for Halo Online, and they did a lot of the work for it. So because it's scarce, there's actually property rights within that. So they have a legitimate claim, and so everyone knew when El Dorito came out or Halo Online, everyone knew, hey, it's going to get taken down. And guess what? It got taken down. So that's no surprise. The question is how do you solve something like this? Because this is a situation where Microsoft and the other companies involved, and you never know how, if they're being honest with this, but it seemed like they didn't really care that this was out, but their problem was it was free and they weren't getting any profits from it, okay? And so I know everyone's going to be like, oh, Microsoft's a big bad corporation trying to make money. Well, the whole point of a corporation and them making money is they can only offer a service if they make money. So especially for the video game industry, if people don't spend money on it, how do you create more of it? Okay, even though the mods did a lot, I mean, creating the entire Halo story arc, as well as, just the base mechanics for this game, that's something that the mods did not do. So, shouldn't Microsoft be compensated for their efforts? It seems pretty simple to just compensate them for their efforts, but the problem is that if you try and do some sort of contract, or if you try and create a business for this, like if Halo Online tried to create a business out of themselves, they're just a bunch of amateurs. So how do they do it? Okay, that's the real question, is how do you get a bunch of amateurs, just a bunch of mods in a community, and it says right here, if you look at their website, it's a free community-driven Halo experience. How do you get a bunch of amateurs like this to get a fully functioning business up and running, and one that not only takes profits in, but distributes it amongst the owners of the company, okay? And the reason why this is super important is because something like El Dorito could have made a shitload of money. People would have paid a huge amount of money for this, especially because the one thing that people don't understand, Like if you guys aren't aware of what El Dorito was, or online Halo, or Halo Online, sorry, you could do a bunch of Forge created maps. This is a picture here of someone putting an elephant on Guardian, but you could do basically anything you wanted in Forge on Halo Online. And so if you guys remember back to the original Halo, most of the best maps, and especially the maps used in like the MLG variants, were all Forge player created maps. Once you add in Forge to something like Halo, there's infinite possibilities of what you can do. Okay, and so this gets super interesting, because now if we can figure out some sort of way that you can create and distribute profits for a company using a blockchain, not only can you pay these original companies who are involved, okay, not only can you pay Microsoft, Innova, and Saber, but you can also pay players, and you can have something literally built by players and these mods, and you can pay players for building things, or for building maps. So even if you're not a coder, maybe you've really got a knack for building good maps, good maps that are fun and playable. And so maybe you just build maps in Forge, and then maybe your maps, you start releasing them to the public and people start playing them, and then you get some sort of fee for each game played. And then maybe beyond that, you've also got game variant types. So the one thing that you could really do in this new Halo was there's a bunch of different ways that you could adjust your settings. So if you look, this is just a picture of what Halo looks like, or the Halo Online looks like for people who are playing it. Um, you could actually adjust a lot of the different settings on not only your controller sensitivity and how your controller, like what the buttons do. Not only that, and I guess it's on computer, so you know what your keyboard binds are. But not only that, but you could adjust the angle that you would see the gun at. So like if you wanted to sort of hide the gun, or if you wanted the gun more visible, there's a lot of different things you could do with that. Obviously. Within Halo, there's a bunch of different game variants already. So there's like Slayer, Capture the Flag, things like this. You could already adjust movement speed. You could adjust spawn timers. You could adjust total damage. You could adjust weapon spawn times. There's so many things you can adjust in Halo. So again, not only could this company, if you did this blockchain version of Halo Online, not only could they pay their original owners like Microsoft, Innova, and Saber, not only could they pay the mods who maintain the game, but they could also, and not only would they pay the people who created maps in Forge, but they could pay different groups that maintained like different playlists. So like maybe there's an MLG game variant and it has specific rules and it's a specific game types and all these sort of things. Maybe every time you play one of those games, there's a certain fee that goes to the creators of the game variants. Now, the one thing that I want you guys to really understand here is when I say every time you play a game, you pay a fee to these the creators of this game. I'm not saying that the fee has to be very, very much. If you actually look at how much is required to pay each person involved in the creation of a game, like per game that you play, it's very small, it's very minuscule. And if you actually look at the fees for some of the best or the lowest fee cryptocurrencies right now, like Bitcoin Cash, it's like 1/3 of a cent. That's still way too much to pay per game. If you're new to this channel, you don't already know the way that I've said that you want to create blockchain applications, but you don't actually post a transaction for each game that you play. So technically speaking, you can do all these things in something like, or using a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin Cash, and you only have to put one transaction per month. And the way you do this is you will actually you'll put all the information, or all the relevant information for 1 month. You put it all in one string of text. You hash it all together in one big hash. And so then you check that hash, or you put that hash in one transaction and put it on the blockchain. And I know that'll sound a little bit new to people who are new to this channel, who don't understand blockchain technologies, but all a hash is that when you put one thing, like one bit of text, it's through this algorithm. It's just an algorithm that runs on your computer. If whatever comes out, like, it's going to be completely random. And so the whole purpose of this is, if you have a bunch of information that you want to store, if you hash that information, and then if anyone has a record of that information, if they try and alter their record of that information in any way whatsoever, then it's easily known because it changes the hash. So the whole point of this is that if you store a hash of a month's worth of your gameplay, like your game information on Halo Online. Like let's say with Halo Online you have a monthly subscription, and every month you store onto the blockchain all the data for all your games for that month, and then when you send in your information to like the Halo Online company, like for them to bill you and for them to distribute profits for the fee that you pay. Um, when you do that, since you give them not only your information but the hash of your information, you can guarantee that there's been no alteration of that information in any way whatsoever. So then when Halo Online distributes those profits, if anyone asks them like, hey, did you distribute profits correctly, they can show not only the information that they received from each user, but the hash of that information as well, to be to show proof that, hey, nothing's been altered. Okay, and so that's how this whole thing works. And so that's the issue that we have right now with cryptocurrencies, because again, and now I'm going to speak to my cryptocurrency community people, or the problem with cryptocurrencies right now is everyone's trying to do every single individual action. They're trying to put it on the blockchain, and you don't need to do that. Again, with hashes and Merkle roots, the whole reason that you do hashes and Merkle roots is to put a bunch of information on, or it's to concatenate a bunch of information in one single hash, and still know that if you alter any individual hash contained in the Merkle root, the final hash that you end up with is completely changed. So again, that's the whole reason of hashes and Merkle roots, and we really got to use those if we want to get things like this. Because if you think about it, like you can not only use this sort of an idea for subscriptions to a game for something like El Dorito and have it completely community run, completely mod driven, and then not only distribute profits to the company that owns it, but to the mods who work on the game within. You can not only do this for games that are, sort of illegal, like El Dorito, but you can do it for any game whatsoever. And so if you think about it, think about how many video game users there are in the world, and imagine if each one of them, for each platform that they used, once a month they put on one transaction on your blockchain that just contained a list of the information of all the games that they played, and then hash that information so that when they put it on the blockchain, it comes out to be something that's really small, something that can be included as, like, I think it's op return is what you use for Bitcoin Cash. But this is why coins like Zcoin need to make sure that they have the right op codes to just add strings of text on your blockchain. That's all that you need to do. Nothing really big. Just add strings of text, because if you can add a hash of the information of all this, all your game information for the past month, then that allows you to distribute profits in a way that video games can't do right now. Because if you tried to get a bunch of lawyers that said, oh, hey, we're going to give this percentage of ownership to, this person who built this game, or built this game map, and then this percentage to the people who built the game variant, and this percentage to the company. Like if you get lawyers to do that, that's millions of dollars of investment in lawyers. That's why companies like Windows and stuff don't even get involved in these community-driven things, because they don't offer enough returns to justify the millions of dollars in lawyers that it would require. But if you use something like blockchains, you can just create a template for all of this and just say, hey, whoever creates the game map gets this percentage, whoever creates the game variant gets this percentage goes to the company, this percentage goes to the people who host the servers, da 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 da, on and on and on. And then you just do it all through a blockchain contract. And then again, the way that you store this data is, one, you store all the data on the blockchain in Merkle roots using hashes, because then if you change any of the individual hashes contained within it, then you change the final Merkle root, and so you only need to check the Merkle root to check, and that allows you to check each individual hash as well at the same time. So that just makes it scale infinitely. We talked about this before. It scales logarithmically, and so there's no scaling issues associated with a system like that. So it's very easy to ensure that everyone was honest in this system without having to spend many resources to check if they were honest. And then finally, for the individual computers, for each individual user, to ensure that they're being honest and to ensure that the server isn't lying to them. Each individual user will store just the basic information from their map, and again, they would store all the individual categories that would relate to who gets paid for each individual map that you have. So again, that's the map that you use, that's the game variant that you're playing, you know, playtime would also have something to do with it, but it's not that many categories. And then you could also store other information that you want to store for yourself. So like if you want to store your kills, deaths, assists, whether you win or lose, um, so long as you keep the total amount of information under like a kilobyte, which is really easy to do, you can store all that information very easily on your own computer. And you can store it a lot of times. Like if you're only storing 1 kilobyte, then a million games is 1 gigabyte, and you don't have to obviously keep a million games stored on your home computer. You just have to store enough games that you can verify like a month's worth of games. And so most people aren't going to play a million games in a month. So again, you can store a lot of extra data on this blockchain. So you know, it's not just making sure the company gets paid, but you can also store data. Like if you want to just keep your stats and you want to make sure that your stats are accurate, you can do it yourself. But this is how blockchain technologies can really work for a bunch of different video games, basically, you know. And it's insane that not only what they can do for these video games, but that nobody's really doing it right now. And all you need is some sort of opcode that allows you to store oh, what's the word for it right now, to store not script, but just words. Okay, you just have to store words, messages on your blockchain. Okay, I think in Bitcoin Cash it's op return. Okay, there's a specific computer word for it that's escaping me right now, but all you have to store is just characters on your blockchain. So it's just a hash of information. Most hashes, like a SHA-256 hash, is 32 bytes. If you can put 32 bytes on your blockchain, you're good to go. You probably need a little more information than 32 bytes, but then like that's all you need. And then so long as you store this op return data, I guess I'll call it, as long as you store this off the blockchain in Merkle roots, and you know, it's infinitely scalable, and it's really easy to check the information. So this is what I don't understand, why developers aren't moving in this direction for blockchains. We talked about this before, how like Memo and BlockPress, which are the cryptocurrency versions of Twitter, like they do not use Merkle roots or hashes whatsoever, and it really makes no sense to me. But again, if you use Merkle roots and hashes, this opens the door to basically every it opens the door to every digital industry just for the storing of digital data. It allows you to store it in new ways, distributed ways, where you can still verify the integrity of your own personal information, and you can store a guarantee that everyone's personal information has been, you know, untouched. And everyone can check that, and everyone can verify their own information, and it's just an insane thing to do. So again, for something like El Dorito or Halo Online, the reason why this is super important is because the information that you want to make sure has not been tampered with is the information that makes sure, one, that the company gets paid, and then two, each individual user can add on any extra information they want. So if they want to save their own, you know, stats, like the kills, deaths, assists they get per game, you know, how many headshots they get, or, you know, you might even get more in depth, like you might save the location where you die on the map in the game, although, you know, that might affect game performance if you get something going too crazy like that. But anyways, you know, there's a lot of possibilities of what you can do, and it all revolves around making sure that you store this information using hashes and Merkle roots. Okay, and it's the same exact setup that I talked about with the Zcoin version of Twitter and the Pivx version of Twitter. It's the same thing. And the other thing that's really big about this is, like, let's say you do something like El Dorito or Halo Online, which is somewhat illegal right now. If like or one big issue that might happen is that the creators of this, even if they want to adopt this approach, Microsoft might not be willing. So what the moderators could do, because a lot of them are probably really smart with computers and whatnot like that, they could use something like Zcoin, which gives them complete anonymity, and they could actually just create Halo Online again and just start it up, and just understand that it could get taken down and there could be legal consequences. And I'm not advocating this, I'm just saying this is a possibility because they already started it up once before, and you know, it got taken down for legal reasons. So we already know that things like this are going to happen. They're going to continue to happen. So what I'm saying, that like if the next person who wants to try something like Halo Online, what they should do is they should start it up, create some sort of contract that designates who gets paid how much for each game played within the system. So again, if you're doing something like Halo Online, it's controlled by Microsoft, Saber, and Innova. So you would say each game, each player pays this much to the company, or this percentage to the company. This percentage will go to the mods. This percentage will go to the people who host the servers. This percentage will go to the people who, or to the map that it's played on, and this percentage will go to the people who created the game variant. Okay, and that's it. And then you open up a subscription service, so players pay like however much a month to play. Obviously try and keep it low. It was free before, so you could keep it probably pretty low. Hopefully it's less than $5 a month, or not over $5 a month, because that'd be $60 a year. But Halo Online, even if it was $5 a month, I think people would pay for it. Anyways, beyond that, or maybe you just pay like $10 for the initial game, and then you pay like $1 a month just to continue to use mod or like player modded games and player map variants, something like that. But anyways, you just create some sort of contract, and again, all you have to use for cryptocurrencies is you just need to use hashes, because if you create some sort of contract, hash the contract, and then you can put a hash of that contract on the blockchain. As well as, if you want to, like, you can send that contract to the companies involved and just say, hey, these are the terms that we want for the contract. So if you're willing to accept it, then just put some sort of signed something on the blockchain itself to just show that you accept the agreement, and then we can keep this going. And so again, because Zcoin offers anonymity, something like Zcoin, if you put just op return data on the Zcoin blockchain, the people who run this, they can be anonymous the whole time, and they can still provide proof that they've been completely honest as well. So they can do this without, fear of getting into legal trouble. And again, the whole point of doing this is because Microsoft and the people who came out on this in 343 and whatnot, they came out and they're like, you know what, like, we think this is cool, but we're sorry, but we have to take it down. So it's like, again, if you just distribute profits correctly, things like this could exist. And the reason why they don't bring in the lawyers to figure out how to distribute profits is because community-driven projects like this are like, it requires so much money for lawyers to figure this out. But you can do it all on a blockchain and provide proof of it, and you can make sure that everything is completely done correctly, so long as the cryptocurrency you use is auditable. So you need a cryptocurrency that is not only private but auditable. So again, coins like Zcoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Pivx, they could all do it. You need a blockchain also that has enough data, because if you get a subscription service that gets all the world's video gamers on it, and they're doing one transaction per month on the blockchain, that's 400 transactions a second, if you assume there's like 1 billion video game players on the planet. So, you need a big blockchain, that's for sure. But so I guess Bitcoin Cash can handle that right now. The other coins would have to adopt bigger blocks, but this is how you do it. It's all just hashes. It's all just Merkle roots, and you just provide proof of things happening off the blockchain. A lot of people think that when you introduce blockchain, somehow magically everything's completely decentralized and run autonomously. No, it's just that a blockchain exists to provide proof for someone that something happened. Okay, it's just a ledger that provides undeniable proof of something that occurred, because it's an immutable ledger. It can't be changed. So if you have proof of something happening in the past that is on a blockchain, you can ensure that that actually happened. Whatever it is, whatever that proof serves to represent. So again, the hashes for each game that each individual user plays, like with your monthly subscription, like each game you play, there's a certain amount of data that you store, like whether it's going to be whether you win, you lose, the amount of kills you have, the assists, deaths, as well as the game map you play on, the variant, the game variant type that you play, like whether it's Slayer, King of the Hill, Capture the Flag. Stores all that data so that you know who to pay for the company. And then the other thing that matters is that the owners of the company have to put some sort of hash of a contract, and they have to make sure that all parties have signed it, like all parties in the contract have signed it and have accepted it, in order to start distributing funds and to start calling themselves an actual company. But again, if you have a completely auditable and a completely private cryptocurrency, you can do this. So this is one of the big things that I do not see many cryptocurrencies trying to adopt, and it really irritates me. But I hope I explained this well. I hope I didn't labor the point too much. I'm just trying to get it out there because, again, I've been involved with cryptocurrencies for over 5 years now, and we're still at the same point we were when I started. And it's really boggling my mind because the solutions are so simple. So I really hope some developers out there will start getting to work on this and start, building things correctly and doing things the way that they're supposed to be done. Blockchains are a lot simpler than people are making them out to be.